Welcome to OSU Extension's Got Your Dairy Today program. I'm Joyce McDowell, Program Leader, Community Nutrition Programs and Associate Professor, Department of Nutrition at The Ohio State University. I will be joined by Kathy Dodrell, FCS Educator, Washington County and Buckeye Hills ERA, and by Amber Regan, Dietetic Intern, Department of Human Nutrition. I will begin the program with information about health benefits of dairy foods. Kathy Dodrell will discuss making food choices for a healthy lifestyle by switching to fat-free or low-fat milk and milk products, including fortified soy milk, and using information about dairy foods in your day-to-day selection of foods. The program will conclude with Amber Regan discussing with Kathy Dodrell 2 recipes that she selected to demonstrate using low-fat and fat-free milk and milk products in your journey to a great plate. You will have an opportunity to write questions or comments about healthy Americans and dairy foods in the chat box and send to Kathy and to me. Then we'll discuss those in the last segment of today's program. Primary references for today's program are the Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee Report, My Plate, and the Dietary Guidelines 2010. The 2010 Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee Report was developed by a group of nutrition experts. The report is that group's recommendations or that group's findings to the Secretaries of Agriculture and Health and Human Services for use in updating the guidelines. This report, the Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee Report, focused on evidence-based guidelines and recommendations. The committee focused upon effective and useful guidelines in halting and reversing the obesity problem through primary prevention and through changes in behavior, the environment, and the food supply. A fundamental premise of the Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee is that nutrient intake should come primarily from foods. The committee advocates that we eat nutrient-dense forms of foods to provide the maximum nutrient intake with calorie needs. Nutrient-dense foods are those that provide substantial amounts of vitamins and minerals and relatively few calories. Nutrient-dense foods are forms of foods that are lean or low in solid fats and without added solid fats, sugar, starches, or sodium, and that retain naturally occurring components, such as fiber. As documented by the latest data from the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, or NHANES, Americans eat too many calories and too much solid fat, added sugars, refined grains, and sodium. Americans also eat too little dietary fiber, vitamin D, calcium, potassium, and unsaturated fatty acids, and other nutrients that are mostly found in vegetables, fruits, whole grains, low-fat milk and milk products, and seafood. A major goal of the 2010 Advisory Committee is to summarize and synthesize the evidence to support USDA and Health and Human Services in developing nutrition recommendations that reduce the risk of chronic disease while meeting nutrient requirements and promoting health of all Americans. Americans are not consuming enough of certain foods and dietary components that are essential to health. The dairy group is one group that is underconsumed. The dairy group includes fluid milk and many foods made from milk. In order for healthy Americans to consume foods with lots of nutrients and without too many calories, the recommendation is that most dairy group choices should be fat-free or low-fat. Dairy foods are needed because they contain calcium and because they're fortified with vitamin D. Foods made from milk that retain their calcium content are part of the dairy group. Foods made from milk that have little or no calcium are not considered to be in the dietary group. Examples of foods that are not in the dairy group include cream cheese, cream, and butter. They don't have any calcium. Calcium and vitamin D fortified soy milk or soy beverage is also a part of the dairy group. For all but 9 to 13-year-old girls, more than 90 to 95% of all women and girls consume less than the recommended amount of fluid milk and milk products. Generally, females eat fewer dairy foods than do males, and generally, the dairy food intake declines with age. We ask, why milk? Well, These foods are very important because they contribute vitamin D, calcium, and potassium, all three which are targeted nutrients of concern. They contribute those three nutrients to the diet. Fluid milk is fortified with vitamin D. Calcium and potassium are naturally occurring nutrients. The majority of current fluid milk intake comes from 2% milk and whole milk, with smaller amounts from low-fat or fat-free milk. Choosing these fat-free, nutrient-dense forms of fluid milk and milk products provides essentially the same micronutrients as whole milk, but with less solid fat and fewer calories. Thus, the recommendation is that Americans should increase intakes of low-fat or fat-free fluid milk and milk products, including soy milk fortified with vitamin D. Well-established research demonstrates the importance of vitamin D for bone health. Vitamin D promotes health and prevents chronic diseases, such as poor bone health and possibly certain types of cancers, cardiovascular disease, and immune-related disorders. This is especially apparent in people living in northern latitudes, in persons with dark skin, and in overweight and obese adults. Vitamin D deficiency results in rickets in children and osteomalacia in adults. Osteomalacia in adults is a softening of the bones due to the lack of vitamin D or a problem with the body's ability to break down and use this vitamin. In adults and older adults, adequate vitamin D reduces the risk of fractures. Recent evidence suggests that vitamin D is important for body systems, and emerging research has shown that adequate vitamin D is associated with reduced risk for type 1 diabetes, some cancers, autoimmune diseases, and infectious diseases. Children, adults, and the elderly are encouraged to meet the adequate intake for vitamin D by consuming vitamin D-rich foods in both naturally occurring and fortified forms. Who needs vitamin D? Well, literally, we all do. The majority of Americans do not meet the adequate intake for vitamin D. Less than 1 in 10 women and men older than 50 years meet that recommendation. In other words, 9 in 10 Americans more than 50 years old do not meet the adequate intake for vitamin D. About half of children older than 9 years do meet the adequate intake. Let's look at the health benefits of calcium. NHANES, or the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey data, indicate that 10% of women and 2% of men older than 50 years have osteoporosis of the femoral neck. That's the region just below the ball and socket hip joint. The consequences of osteoporosis include hip fractures. Let's look at the health benefits of potassium. There's a moderate body of evidence that's demonstrated that a higher intake of potassium is associated with lower blood pressure in adults. Inadequate potassium intake may increase the risk of kidney stones and perhaps osteoporosis. At present, reduced fat, 2% and 1% milk is the top food source of potassium for all persons. Thus, continuing to use low-fat and fat-free fluid milk and milk products is important. We started by asking the question, got your dairy today? And I hope you can honestly answer yes to that question. If you're one of the Americans who needs more low-fat and fat-free fluid milk and milk products, continue listening.
Thank you, Joyce. The health benefits of milk and milk products include diets rich in milk and milk products help build and maintain bone mass throughout the life cycle. This may reduce the risk of osteoporosis. The intake of milk products is especially important to bone health during childhood and adolescence when bone mass is being built. Diets that include milk tend to have a higher overall nutritional quality. Many cheeses, whole milk, and products made from them are high in saturated fat. To help keep blood cholesterol levels healthy, limit the amount of these foods that you eat. In addition, a high intake of fats makes it difficult to avoid consuming more calories than are needed. Your body cannot make its own calcium, so it's up to you to supply it on a regular basis. Milk, yogurt, and cheese are the best sources of the mineral calcium. For children, milk is the current key source of vitamin D and calcium and is an excellent source of high-quality protein. Fortified soy milk is a good alternative for individuals who prefer not to consume cow's milk, although consumers should be aware that soy milk provides about 75% of the calcium available from milk. Soy milk is not technically a milk, but a beverage made from soybeans. It is the liquid that remains after soybeans are soaked, finely ground, and then strained. Since it doesn't contain any lactose, soy milk is suitable for lactose intolerant folks. It's also a popular cow's milk substitute for vegetarians since it's based on a plant source. Others include rice, oat, almond, coconut, and potato milk. Soy foods are the only plant-based complete proteins. 1 cup of unfortified soy milk contains almost 7 grams of protein, 4 grams of carbohydrate, 4.5 grams of fat, and no cholesterol. Although soy milk supplies some B vitamins, it's not a good source of B12, nor does it provide a significant amount of calcium. Since many people substitute soy beverages for cow's milk, manufacturers have offered fortified versions. These varieties may include calcium and vitamins E, B12, and D, among other nutrients. If you choose soy milk, read labels carefully to be sure you're getting enough of these important nutrients. Yogurt drinks have lower lactose content than milk and may be preferred by individuals with reduced lactose tolerance. The Dietary Guidelines Committee evaluated 7 random trials and 32 observational studies exploring the relationship between milk intake and bone health. There are important benefits of higher calcium intake on bone mineral density, but these are not maintained if the high intake is reduced. What foods are included in the dairy group? Milk, all fluid milk, fat-free skim, low fat or 1%, reduced fat or 2%, or whole milk. Flavored milks such as chocolate and strawberry, lactose-reduced milks, and lactose-free milks. Cheese, hard cheese like cheddar, mozzarella, Swiss, Parmesan, soft cheeses such as ricotta and cottage cheese, and processed cheeses like American. Milk-based desserts like puddings made from milk, ice cream, ice milk, and frozen yogurt, and yogurt, all yogurt, whether it's fat-free, low-fat, reduced-fat, or whole milk yogurt. Choose fat-free or low-fat yogurt and milk and cheese. If you choose milk or yogurt that is not fat-free or cheese that is not low-fat, the fat in the product counts as part of the empty calories allowance. If sweetened milk products are chosen, like flavored milk, yogurt, drinkable yogurt, desserts, the added sugar also counts as part of the empty calorie allowance. For those who are lactose intolerant, lactose-free and lower lactose products are available. These include hard cheeses and yogurt. Also, enzyme preparations can be added to milk to lower the lactose content. Calcium-fortified foods and beverages, such as soy beverages or orange juice, may provide calcium, but may not provide the other nutrients found in milk and milk products. The amount of food from the dairy group you need depends on age. The recommended daily amounts are shown here. 3 cups per day of fat-free or low-fat milk and milk products for adults and children and adolescents ages 9 to 18. 3 cups per day of fat-free or low-fat milk and milk products for adults and children and adolescents ages 9 to 18. 2.5 cups per day for children 4 to 8 years, and 2 cups for children ages 2 to 3 years. What counts as 1 cup from the dairy group? Milk, choose fat-free or low-fat milk most often, 1 cup, 1/2 pint container of milk, 1/2 cup evaporated milk. Yogurt, choose fat-free or low-fat yogurt, 1 regular container or 8 ounces, or 1 cup of yogurt. Cheese, choose reduced fat or low fat cheeses. 1½ ounces of hard cheese like cheddar, mozzarella, Swiss, Parmesan. 1/3 cup shredded cheese. 2 ounces processed cheese. 1/2 cup ricotta cheese, or 2 cups cottage cheese. Milk-based desserts, again choose fat-free or low-fat types. 1 cup pudding made with milk, 1 cup frozen yogurt, 1½ cups ice cream. And soy milk or soy beverage, 1 cup calcium fortified soy milk, 1 1/2 pint container calcium fortified soy milk. Following are some suggestions to help you incorporate milk into your diet. Drink milk with meals and snacks. Top casseroles and salads with grated cheese. Add 2 tablespoons of non-fat dry milk to every quart of fluid milk. 1 tablespoon non-fat dry milk adds 52 milligrams of calcium and 15 calories. Combine cottage cheese with fresh, canned, or dried fruits for a quick snack, breakfast, lunch, or salad. Cook hot cereals in milk instead of water. Top a steamy baked potato with non-fat yogurt or shredded cheddar or mozzarella cheese. Use fat-free yogurt to replace mayonnaise in salad dressings and dips. Use fat-free milk instead of water when preparing hot soups. You will see a recipe for tomato basil soup shortly that incorporates milk. Add 1/2 cup per pound of meat. Add dry milk, 1/2 cup per pound of meat, to meatloaf mixture before baking. Do the same with burgers, sloppy joes, or spaghetti sauce. If you drink cappuccinos or lattes, ask for them made with fat-free milk. Enjoy fat-free yogurt as a snack. Make fruit yogurt smoothies in the blender. Add non-fat dry milk to puddings, breads, muffins, homemade cookies, soups, or even a glass of milk. Add 2 tablespoons dry milk sifted into each cup of flour in cakes, cookies, or breads. Try 3 tablespoons dry milk per cup of fluid milk in puddings or cocoa. Or try 4 tablespoons dry milk in each cup of hot cereal before cooking. When preparing non-fat dry milk to use in place of fluid milk, mix 1/3 cup with 1 cup of water. Make lasagna with fat-free ricotta cheese. Use food labels to identify good sources of calcium and vitamin D. Consume calcium sources throughout the day instead of all at one time. The body can absorb about 500 milligrams of calcium at one time from food and/or calcium supplements. Use flavored yogurt as a fruit salad dressing. Or make a nutritious fruit parfait dessert by layering non-fat yogurt with fresh fruit and low-fat granola. Make chocolate ice pop by freezing low-fat chocolate milk in ice cube trays. Place a popsicle stick in the trays before freezing. We will show you a great recipe shortly for chocolate peanut butter freezer squares. Some people lack the enzyme lactase, which is needed to digest lactose or milk sugar. This condition, called lactose intolerance, does not involve the immune system like a food allergy does. Symptoms of lactose intolerance include gas, bloating, abdominal pain, diarrhea, and nausea. The severity of these symptoms is often related to how much lactose is consumed and when it's consumed in relation to other foods. If you have lactose intolerance, the most reliable way to get the healthy benefits of milk is to choose milk products that are either lactose-free or lactose-reduced. Always start with a small amount of milk products containing lactose and gradually increase the portion size to determine your tolerance level. Another solution is to take the enzyme lactase before consuming a milk product or along with it. Try dairy foods other than milk. Many hard cheeses, like cheddar, Swiss, Parmesan, have less lactose than milk. Yogurt made with live active bacteria is also a good choice. Eat lactose-containing foods and beverages in combination with a meal or solid foods rather than alone. This slows the release of lactose into the digestive tract, making it easier to digest. If you choose not to eat dairy products, then consume other calcium-rich foods and beverages that contain all of the nutrients provided by the milk group. Calcium-fortified foods and beverages provide calcium, but they may not contain the other nutrients found in milk. Use food labels to identify good sources of calcium. This slide shows a comparison of calories, fat, saturated fat, and calcium among whole milk, 2% reduced fat milk, 1% low-fat milk, and fat-free milk. Whole milk has 150 calories compared to 120 for 2% reduced fat milk, 100 calories for 1% low-fat milk, and 80 calories for fat-free milk. Whole milk has 8 grams of fat, 5 grams of saturated fat. 2% reduced fat milk has 5 grams of fat, 3 grams of saturated fat. The 1% low-fat milk has 2.5 grams of fat and 1.5 grams of saturated fat, while the fat-free milk has 0 grams of fat and 0 grams of saturated fat. Whole milk has 300 milligrams of calcium. 2% reduced fat milk has 300 milligrams of calcium. The 1% low-fat milk and the fat-free milk also both contain 300 milligrams of calcium. Now's the time that you can think of your own suggestions for adding milk into your diet.
Hi, I want to introduce to you Amber Reagan. Amber is a dietetic intern in the Department of Human Nutrition here at Ohio State University this summer. And Amber is going to share with us a couple of recipes that help us get more milk in our diet. So welcome, Amber. And
Thank you.
What's our first recipe?
Well, today we're going to be preparing a tomato basil soup. First, we are sauteing about half an onion, half a white onion, in a little bit of oil, about a tablespoon of olive oil here. So this is just about done, and you know it's done when it starts to get kind of transparent.
All right.
So you'll saute it just to that point, and then we'll add in 2 cloves of garlic. I'm going to mince those up. And you don't cook the garlic very long at all because it will burn very quickly and then it'll taste bitter.
Are you using high temperature, medium temperature at this point?
We're sauteing on medium.
Okay.
And it'll stay on medium pretty much the whole time until the very last process of the cooking.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to have you add in some ingredients for me if you want to dump in. This is 1 can of chopped tomatoes, and we drained the liquid out of them as best we could.
Now, if a person has a garden, this would be a great way to use their own tomatoes, of course.
Absolutely, and this is just a nice, easy, cost-effective way to cook, but if you use your own, it'll probably taste even better afterwards.
Right, we like fresh.
And then we have about a teaspoon of dried basil. This gives it its nice flavor. And with your dried spices, you want to cook those with the soup. If you're using fresh, you want to add them more towards the end because the fresh herbs don't stand up to the heat as much as the dried ones.
Okay.
And then we'll add in a little bit of cayenne pepper. I used about 1/4 teaspoon. I'll help you with that. I used about 1/4 teaspoon, but if you're sensitive to spice or you're not real sure if you'd like it, I would start off on the low end and just give it a little dash. You can always add more later.
I was going to say, you can always add more. A little bit goes a long way.
I didn't pour all of it. You want to give it a little texture, so leave some of the tomatoes whole chopped in there, but we want to blend about 3/4 of the mixture so it's nice and smooth and thick. All right, so we're going to add back the pureed mixture back into our onions and tomatoes that we cooked earlier. So that looks nice and smooth, doesn't it?
Right,
So
and we add milk.
Yep, we've got 2 cups of non-fat milk, and you've still got it right on medium heat. So
That's fat-free milk.
mm-hmm.
Can you use evaporated? canned milk or powdered milk?
You sure can. You sure can. If you'd like to use any kind of dehydrated or evaporated product, you would want to make sure you reconstitute that before you add it into the pan.
This is a soup that could be served chilled.
It's primarily meant to be served warm, but it would probably be a pretty good chilled soup as well, kind of like a gazpacho or something along those lines. Let's dig in. I'll let you go first. And I garnished it with a few fresh basil leaves. You're welcome to chop those up in there as well and eat it.
It's very good.
Now we're going to make a dessert item.
Great. What do we
Incorporating our milk, of course, we're going to make a frozen chocolate pudding bar.
Sounds great.
All right, so would you like to whip it up for us?
Please.
All right, we'll start out with one package of fat-free, sugar-free pudding mix.
Okay.
And you can use any flavor you like. We're using chocolate to complement our peanut butter mixture, but you can use any kind of flavor you like. And also, a little tip to save money is you can use the store brand.
Okay.
So there's really no difference in taste.
Right. All
And then
right.
you want to add in a cup and a half of milk. So that's the main difference between just preparing this and a regular box of pudding, is that the regular box of pudding takes 2 cups, and we're making it just a little bit thicker.
Oh, okay. So how much milk did we use?
That's a cup and a half. You just want to mix that until it's nice and smooth. Whisk it up. And as soon as the mixture is smooth, we're going to beat in 2 tablespoons of peanut butter. And the peanut butter, of course, gives us a nice taste, but it also helps with the texture. Gives you a smoother texture. All right, so we are lining a baking pan. This is a 9 by 13 inch pan, and we're lining it with graham crackers.
Now, I know I have seen reduced fat graham crackers. That just might be one more little step to cut back on fat and calories.
And those will taste just fine. You got so much going on here that you're not even going to notice that it's any different at all. All right, and you may have to break up a few of the graham crackers to line the bottom of it.
I wanted to mention you could use evaporated canned fat-free milk or powdered milk again.
Yeah, just make sure you reconstitute it before you add it into the mix.
Right. Okay.
All right, so you've got it mixed up nice and smooth. It looks just like a rich pudding right now. And you're going to spread it out over on top.
How about I pour it on?
There we go. It goes on there like cake batter or brownie batter.
Okay.
So you'll spread it out nice and thin, and then you'll cover the top with graham crackers in the same pattern that you did to line the pan. And you'll want to freeze this for at least 4 hours or overnight. But after a couple hours, make sure you cut your bars. That way they don't freeze too hard. All right, Kathy, we have some frozen chocolate bars. Would you like to try?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Now, after these are frozen and you cut, how do you store them?
You can wrap these up in plastic bags and store them right in the freezer. And then take them out whenever you'd like to eat them. Like them?
These are great. I love them. Thank you, Amber.
You're very welcome.